So, guys, over the past few weeks, we've heard plenty of conversations about the Washington Commanders wide receiver room. Some people believe Terry McLaurin has enough help, while others think this offense is still missing one more proven weapon before training camp begins. And some people still think Brandon Ayuk is in the mix. See how funny it is? I've written him off a long time ago. But now, Stefon Diggs has made a bold statement that's something worth noting. When you hear what he said and compare it to Washington's current receiver room, it's easy to see why so many fans think the message was directed at them. So, let's break down exactly what was said, why it's creating so much buzz around the Commanders, and whether Washington should take that message seriously. What's up, Commanders Nation? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Commanders. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, Stefon Diggs went on a podcast recently, and the way he talked about himself was pretty bold. He basically said you can put him up against anybody in this league, but if you take away the true number one guys, the elite of the elite, there is not a single number two receiver in football better than him. He challenged people to name one. Go ahead, he said, name your best number two receiver, tell me what he makes, and then ask yourself if that guy is really better than him. And honestly, that is a confident thing to say out loud, right? But here's the thing. When you actually look at what he did last season, it is hard to argue with him too much. This is a guy who is not trying to hide behind humility here. He knows exactly what he thinks his value is, and he wants the league to know it too, especially with teams still shaping their rosters right now before camp opens up. Now here's where it gets interesting for us as Commanders fans. Diggs has not exactly been quiet about wanting to play here. His social media activity lately has practically been screaming about it. He posted a workout video from this offseason, and K'Lavon Chaisson, who was his teammate last year in New England and is now on the Commanders roster, commented on it with a little raise the flag message, showing love and basically giving his approval if Diggs ever joined Washington. Diggs responded to that with a couple of emojis that honestly read like he is very much paying attention to what is happening in Washington. On top of that, he's been liking Commanders posts left and right. He liked a clip of Jaden Daniels throwing routes with some of his receivers out on the West Coast this offseason. And it is not just liking posts from a distance either, he has been showing up around Commanders players in person too. There was a video from a wide receiver trainer, Myron Flowers, and right there in the middle of the group working out was Diggs, alongside new Commanders receiver Van Jefferson and tight end Lawrence Cager. People even noticed he was catching passes with a football that had the Commanders logo stitched right onto it. That is not something you just accidentally end up doing. This is a guy who grew up in Maryland, played his college ball at the University of Maryland, and it really feels like his heart is set on his next chapter being in burgundy and gold. So, now the real question is, should Washington actually go get him? My honest opinion, yes they should, and honestly, I think they should have made this move a while ago already. Once all that drama played out with Brandon Ayuk running his mouth about Jaden Daniels on social media, that right there should have been the moment Washington moved on and turned the page toward Diggs instead of continuing to wait around. Look, I know he is 32 years old, and yeah, that is usually the point in a receiver's career where people start worrying about decline. But last year did not show any decline at all. He played for a Patriots team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and he was their guy. 85 catches, over 1,000 yards receiving, and he did it while playing only around 55% of the offensive snaps. He was basically used as a rotational piece in that offense for most of the year. Now stretch those numbers out to a normal snap count. Something closer to 85%, and you are talking about a guy who would have finished with over 130 catches over 1,500 yards, and around 6 touchdowns. That is close to the best output of his entire career, and honestly, it would have been his best numbers in several seasons if he played a full workload. So, no, I do not see an aging receiver here at all. I see a guy who is still one of the more reliable route runners in this league, still has strong, sticky hands, still knows how to shake free from man coverage, and still does real damage after the catch even though he is not the fastest guy on the field anymore. He just plays a lot bigger than his actual size suggests, and he understands how to set defenders up before he even breaks toward the ball. And let's not forget the resume this guy is carrying into free agency either. He spent 5 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, then 4 more with the Buffalo Bills, where he was the clear number 1 target for years. He had a short stop with the Houston Texans, and then last year he landed with the Patriots and helped turn that offense completely around. On top of the 85 catches and the 1,000-plus yards, he actually posted a career-best catch rate, converting right around 83% of his targets into completions, which is an elite number for any receiver in this league, let alone a guy people want to write off because of his age. He led the Patriots team in targets too, with over 100 looks coming his way across the season. So, when people bring up his age like it is some kind of red flag, I just do not see the tape or the numbers backing that concern up. This was arguably one of the most efficient seasons of his entire career, and it came right after a torn ACL the year before. That tells you a lot about how he takes care of his body and how badly he wants to keep proving people wrong. And honestly, when Diggs says there is no number 2 receiver in the league better than him, I do not think he is completely wrong when you specifically look at Washington's roster. Is he better than every single number 2 option across the entire NFL? Maybe not. There are a couple of names out there you could argue for. But is he clearly better than every single receiver currently on this Commanders roster not named Terry McLaurin? Yeah, honestly, I think so, and it is not really that close either. Let's be real about what Washington actually has behind McLaurin right now. Antonio Williams is exciting. I like his game a lot. He has good hands and real football smarts, but he is still a rookie, and rookies are projections until they actually prove it on Sundays against real NFL corners. Dyami Brown is a nice complementary piece. He has shown some chemistry with Jaden Daniels, but nobody's calling him a true difference maker who can win one-on-one against a good cornerback every single week. Treylon Burks was a first-round pick, and he has flashed at times, but he has never been able to string together consistent production throughout his career so far. Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane are both still finding their footing, talented in flashes but inconsistent overall, the kind of guys who need the right matchup to really show up. Beyond that, you are looking at depth pieces like Van Jefferson, who are fine as complementary rotational guys but are not walking through that door as a true number two who can take pressure off the quarterback on his own. So think about it this way. Right now, if McLaurin goes down for even a few games, this offense is in real trouble at receiver. That is a scary situation for a team that is supposedly trying to win now with Jaden Daniels entering a big year. But if you add Diggs into that room, everything shifts in a good way. Now you've got two proven guys who can start and win their individual matchups every single week, McLaurin and Diggs. And suddenly Antonio Williams becomes your number three instead of getting thrown straight into the fire as a guy who has to perform like a number two right away as a rookie. That is such a healthier situation for a young player to develop in. And then all your other pieces, Brown, Burks, McCaffrey, become bonus production instead of guys who absolutely have to show up every single week just to keep this passing game afloat. That is the difference between hoping guys develop and actually having a proven floor at the position. Now, in terms of money, this is not even a hard decision from a cap standpoint. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, Diggs is looking at something in the range of $8 to $12 million on a one-year contract. Washington currently sits with the third most cap space in the entire league, somewhere close to $44 million available. Signing Diggs at that price is basically pocket change for a franchise in Washington's position. You would still have tens of millions left over to address other needs on this roster afterward. So, if the money is not the problem, and he clearly wants to be here, I honestly do not understand what Adam Peters is waiting for at this point. The only thing I can think of is that maybe Washington is still holding out hope on the Brandon Ayuk situation somehow resolving itself, and honestly, after everything we have seen play out with him this offseason. I am really hoping that is not the case anymore. I think it is time for this front office to move in a different direction there and stop waiting on a situation that keeps getting messier by the week. Every day this drags on is another day. A different team could swoop in and make Diggs an offer, and honestly, given how public he has been about wanting Washington, it would be a shame to see him land somewhere else simply because this front office hesitated too long. Now, if for some reason Diggs does not end up in Washington, there are still a few other names worth keeping an eye on. Tyreek Hill, if he can somehow get all the way back healthy, would be a fascinating deep threat pairing next to Jaden Daniels. Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins are both savvy, experienced veterans who could still contribute in a rotational role and give this offense some steady, reliable snaps. And do not sleep on Kayshon Boutte, who played alongside Jaden Daniels back at LSU and is reportedly available in a trade right now. A late day 3 pick for a familiar face with that kind of chemistry would honestly not be the worst move either if Washington strikes out elsewhere. There is also a scheme fit conversation worth having here that people are not talking about enough. Last year, Diggs basically split his snaps evenly between lining up outside and working out of the slot, which means he would not just be crowding McLaurin's spot on the field, he would actually complement it. That kind of versatility is exactly what this coaching staff wants from a true number two, someone who can move around the formation and force the defense to guess where he is lining up on any given play. That is a very different profile than a guy who only knows how to play one specific spot. But if you were asking me straight up, my number one choice remains Diggs. He fits the timeline of this roster, he fits the need at the position, and honestly, he wants to be here more than almost any other free agent option out there. That last part matters a lot more than people give it credit for, because motivation and fit both count for something when you are trying to build real chemistry in a short off-season. So here's my question for you guys watching this video. On a scale of 0 to 100, what is the percentage chance that Stefon Diggs ends up wearing burgundy and gold this season? Drop your number down in the comments and tell me your reasoning behind it. I will be reading through all of them, so let me know what you think.